Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with NewFilmmaker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and we're here at the South Park Center and I'm here with filmmaker Priscilla with her movie Room 140. Let's take a look at the clip. Priscilla, thank you so much for being here today and congratulations on your film.
Thank you so much.
For those that haven't seen Room 140, tell us a brief synopsis of your documentary.
Yeah, so Room 140 is a portrait piece of essentially the day that asylum-seeking immigrants are released from detention centers. And on that day, they are usually released because someone's agreed to host them or say that they are sponsoring them, but that doesn't mean that they always have somewhere to go, much less that they can afford even just the plane ticket wherever in the US they've been sent to these detention camps. And so there is a pastor in Oakland who, through his own means, he works at a motel, and so he rents out a room for people to stay for a night or two when they have nowhere to go after they've been released from detention. And so this man basically does this on his own. He is also an immigrant, and he just uses whatever resources he can to help people who are being released and have nowhere to go or just food or clothing or whatever he can offer at the time. And so the film focuses on that day that they're released, and it's different people who stay in that room, Room 140 at the motel. And it's just trying to portray what that day would be like for someone who has just been through so much and their journey's not even over. They still have so much left to figure out. And so the film is a portrait of that moment, but also just a sense of transition, of limbo, of very relatable experiences, but focusing on this very current issue. Which
couldn't be more current. Honestly, I mean, your film is like as current as you could possibly get about what we're talking about in our country today. And I just want to say thank you for making this film, because I think, so many people are not humanizing enough of what people are going through. And your film is so moving and it humanizes the struggles that people are having. And I think sometimes we think it's so far away, or it's way off, it's somewhere else, and we sort of almost desensitize ourselves to it. And your film really hits home about these are human beings, they've gone through endless struggles, they're having to figure everything out. And I think, commend you as a filmmaker for making that now, because I think everyone in America should watch it, honestly.
Thank you so much.
Where did the inspiration come for you? I mean, obviously it's a current topic, but where did it come for you about this particular story in Oakland and this pastor?
Yeah, at first I was really interested in what Sanctuary looks like, and this was also what Sanctuary looked like almost 2 years ago, even before the election. And so I was doing research in the Bay Area, and I met with different pastors that have been involved, and one pastor told me, you have to speak to this man, Pastor Gomez, in the film. And he didn't even tell me much. He just said, you have to talk to him. And so I scheduled a time to meet with him. I went to his workplace, and we spoke for about an hour. In that hour, I mean, he was so interested in hearing what I had to say and what I wanted to do, but he was, taking texts as well, or a phone call, not like in a way where he was always working and he was always trying to figure out how to help. It was always somebody who needed him. And he would take a second to address that and then come back and just be 100% like what we're talking about. And so it's just this incredible person who's so giving and is just always giving of himself. And we talked about that too. He's not featured as much in the film. He really wanted it to be about them. I feel like there was a lot of collaboration in what in the project itself, but in talking to him and getting to know him. I mean, it's just like, this is a person who feels like this is what he's here to do. And so that's how I met him, and I just right away knew that I really wanted to make a film about him, and what he was doing. And through that collaboration and the further conversations was how the structure of the film came about, which was this cyclical situation and of different people that come in and out of the hotel. And it's not, in the film itself, it's not indicated that it's Oakland. It's supposed to be any motel, and similar to what we were talking about earlier, it's this is happening everywhere.
It
could be anywhere, and it could be any community. They're actually all indigenous Guatemalans, immigrants, but that's not even in the film exactly. But that is that community in Oakland.
I think that's the great thing, is that you make it, it's relevant to many cities, many places, many nationalities, many circumstances, and I think that's one thing that was relatable. This was one situation, sadly, of many, many situations that's going on today. I don't quite know. I don't know if I would have the strength to be able to film that and see people's struggles and kind of be there with them, not knowing, because you captured, I mean, you could just see in their eyes just them thinking over their thoughts and what was going on in their heads, and not knowing really what's coming next, and just, you know, going by each day. What was that experience like for you as a filmmaker, to be able to capture that, and how was their response to it as well?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question, because I mean, it is hard, of course, because you're human. And I mean, just even in my own, I know that I didn't, and my family didn't go through that situation, but I'm a first-generation American, and you know, just seeing the hopes and dreams of people who have gone through so much to be here, to then almost, I mean, we're seeing you're here and you're let down because it's not exactly the situation that it should be. But for me, filming with different people and hearing so many stories, you know, a lot of times when you're in an interview, it's hard to keep your own composure. I mean, there were times where so many times where I held back tears. So many times where afterwards I would go to my car and bawl, and then get it together and keep filming. Because the other thing that I learned along the way, that it did take some time, was that a lot of times as a documentary filmmaker, the people who you're filming, telling their stories, do have a lot of trust in you. I mean, that's pretty, sorry, let me restate it. Like, the people that I'm filming, I felt so much like I was, you know, I was asking so much of them, but they also had a lot of trust in me to record this story, to get their story out there. And ultimately, of course, you know, I have these hour-long interviews, and they're not all in the film, but a lot of them, and obviously everybody it was a different experience filming with different people, but some of them were just like, okay, like, I want to tell you right now, like, everything that just happened. And it's almost, I think, cathartic for them to talk to somebody. And so being able to be that person to listen while I'm also working on a film, and of course just, but yeah, it's definitely gets to you. And I mean, even just like talking about it, you know, thinking back about
of course.
those conversations and building relationships with people. I mean, there are people that I kept in touch with for some time, and they've ended up in different places. Some of them were deported and went back, and as we know, the situation just keeps getting harder and harder and worse. And so I always wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable and that they were somehow getting something out of it, whether it was to have someone to talk to or whatever resources I could give that day, whether it was food or just whatever I had in my car, that like a blanket, something, you know, just, and yeah, I mean, it was definitely very impactful for me to work on that film. And I'm just so grateful that they trusted me with their stories, and
I'm glad. I'm glad that you made this film, not only for, you know, again, a very current thing that's taking place in many parts of the world. We're certainly going through it right here at the moment, but also to really humanize these, you know, people that are trying to seek better circumstances for themselves and for their families. And, wouldn't we all want to do that if we were in that situation?
Yeah.
And I think that's something really important to share, is that, you'd fight for your family, you'd fight for the safety of your family, for the safety even if you're by yourself, and the journey that they have to go through to get safety and then get rejected is just unbelievable in a humongous country that really could have, double the population and still have room. I think it's, I'm sure there was many challenges, but was there a certain challenge that you had experienced in this film more than others?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, there are many challenges. Sorry, let me go back. There's definitely many challenges in making the film, but I think the challenge that still sticks out the most is that I started this project before the election in 2016.
Wow.
And right away, or initially, not only was I working with the pastor, we were about, discussing the idea for this project, but also there were more people in that situation who were willing to participate. In that month of November, even I think into December, there was nobody willing to participate at that point. It wasn't until, I believe, early February that there were some people that were willing, again, to be on camera and speak to me. And that totally makes sense. They were scared. They didn't know if it was safe for them to be on camera and to talk to someone. They didn't know, they trusted him, and that's the only reason they trusted me. But even then, they're of course taking this big risk or this chance to do something that they don't really know very much about. And so, the whole time I worked with several immigration lawyers. And so I was constantly consulting. They're not named in the film. They're not named in the film, but I also just always worked with the lawyers and did research to make sure that there was nothing that could possibly happen to them for participating. And fortunately, that's all fine. If not, there's no way I would have made the film. And so that was one of the biggest challenges, was that after the election, people were scared to talk to me. They were scared to speak up.
Understandably. What did you want your audience to get from this film? And what has your experience been like at New Filmmakers LA as well?
In making the film, I was really hoping to make a film that put people in the position that these asylum-seeking immigrants are. Just to put yourselves in the position of whether you have a young woman, you have two young men with families, you have a mother, like whoever it is, to put yourself in that situation of really not having any idea what the next day looks like. Like, what is the feeling of really being in limbo? And my hope was that if you could put yourself in that situation, you just have more compassion for people in those situations. And maybe they're, anybody who's, even if, of course, they're in this very extreme situation, their lives are at risk. But even if it's someone who, for other reasons, just has to go through this major transition, we've all gone through transitions, but just to have that compassion, because you don't know what other people are going through.
No,
exactly.
exactly.
I think that's the main thing.
And what was it like to have in front of an audience at New Filmmakers? Was that kind of nice to have a new audience and just kind of feel their reaction too?
Yeah, screening at New Filmmakers was amazing. We had such a great crowd, great questions after. It's been a great experience to meet filmmakers in LA who are just really passionate about documentary and film. And it's just been a really great community. Being in LA for a long time, being from around here, LA is huge and you can totally get lost, and there's just so many different film communities. And honestly, I feel so fortunate to have been welcomed into this community, because it's just been amazing to build real relationships with people who are so passionate about film, because they love making films and they love telling stories.
Well, we're fortunate to have you as a filmmaker, and I'm very, very grateful that you brought your film to us, because everybody should see it. It's a real great example and testimony to really what's existing right now, and it's one example of very, very many, and honestly, you know, there's no way you can watch this film and not have compassion for what people are going through, and I'm really grateful you made that film for us, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to seeing much more of your work, so thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Thank you.